Game 3 in this best of 7 series. Currently, vV Gaming taking a commanding 2-0 lead, but now Gosu bringing up their strongest player, and it's going to be the pretty in pink Protoss versus the red Zerg on MLG dual site.
Yeah, one of my favorite custom colors is the pink Protoss, going to be Gosu Huangsin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Spawning in the western position here, and then vVv's Titan as the red Zerg spawning in the eastern position. Again, MLG dual site is the map. One of the newer maps in the MLG map pool, and I think Anaheim and Raleigh were basically the first two opportunities to see it. And we saw some pretty interesting play. Again, I'm not really sure that a lot of the pro players like this map. We saw a lot of vetoes in MLG. Basically, they vetoed dual site and they vetoed test bug as well. So they're not getting a lot of practice on these maps in either custom games or on the ladder. So again, we've mentioned in Wednesday Night StarCraft a number of times, because you're not getting a lot of practice on these maps since they're not ladder maps, we can see a little bit of uncomfortableness from the players.
Yeah, exactly. We are gonna see a pylon now being built in a rather strange position. I haven't actually seen a pylon used as part of the wall against a Zerg player in quite some time. It's normally just a gateway and a cybernetics core. So I normally don't want to read too much into SimCity, but that pylon, does that strike you as a little odd?
You know, it does, because Banelings and Zerglings are going to be able to take that on quite easily, but I have seen a number of games where players are, again, placing that pylon by the ramp, and I think that if you have a... no, you're not going to be able to place a Zealot between there to wall off completely, I don't think. You might be able to, and that might be the reason for it. We don't see a lot of Baneling and Zergling all-ins from Zerg anymore to take advantage of that pylon, so I mean, it's relatively safe for the most part. I imagine he would be placing his cybernetics core just to the north of that gateway to wall up completely with the Zealot. Uh, but Titan again going for that gas pool, so the safe opening, and he is going to take down that probe as soon as he gets a few Zerglings out, and then I imagine place down a hatchery around 20 or 21 food.
Yeah, also interesting enough, Titan only has 2 harvesters on gas right now, so he's not going to get that metabolic boost, or he's not going to be able to start it right as that spawning pool completes. Perhaps that's on purpose, or it could be on accident as well. As he is currently training up a queen, he should be able to get in a couple more Zerglings in just a moment, and then he may or may not pull those drones off in order to harvest more minerals. He does pull them off, and now he should be starting the metabolic boost, as he has 100 gas sitting in the bank for no real reason.
Yeah, he might be trying to get down the expansion before he starts the speed, and it looks like he's started the speed and then decided to put down the expansion, but poked down with that drone to see if the probe was going to allow him to place the expansion, but everything's fine now. He's got speed started, the expansion is down. We do see 2 gas already saturated for the Protoss player, so we will have probably a rather techish opening as we see a sentry coming out, and warp gate tech started as well. So another gateway. It's probably going to be some sort of 1 or now 2 gate expand with sentries. I imagine that's what we're going to be seeing.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can imagine right now. 2 gate expand with sentries. Those sentries just so strong, able to put down those force fields, block ramps, and deal a lot of damage. The one drone was able to get off a lot of scouting information, but he only saw that second gateway, so it's still anyone's guess, as we are now going into a Stargate.
Interesting. All right, so he's going to use the Stargate, the 2 gas to come out with those. I thought he was going to come out with a ton of sentries, but he was going to make this seem like a sentry expand, and perhaps Titan won't be ready for this. He does have his 2 queens out, and he's going to place his creep tumor between the main and the natural, like all good Zerg players should, keeping his energy low on both queens. But at this point, just droning very hard. He's already got 23 drones coming off another 5. And he does have these lings, and they're going to try to find the timing of this nexus. They want to delay it as long as possible, and we see Protoss does have the 400 minerals, so now Titan's sort of playing chicken a little bit with this probe, daring it to come out, and he's going to try to take it down before the nexus can go down.
Yeah, Titan, however, also getting an evolution chamber, so I was concerned if he didn't get a spore or wasn't able to build any spore colonies. And now also Titan being a little defensive by getting some spine crawlers as well. By not seeing that Nexus go down, he perhaps assumed that there may have been a 4-gate push right behind it, and it just wasn't 100% sure. The Zerglings want to keep track, make sure that the Nexus does get completed. In order to make sure that there's not going to be a large number of units warping in right behind it. However, the first Void Ray is on the way,
Nice.
and the Overlord does get shot. So Titan very, very well aware of this first Void Ray.
Yeah, and Titan had an evolution chamber building, and then he canceled it for a Baneling Nest, and then he canceled that for an evolution chamber, and then he canceled that for a Roach Warren, and now he's gotten up another evolution chamber. So he's basically trying his best to get scouting information, going through all the builds that his opponent could be going for, finally seeing that Void Ray, and he's going to get the evolution chamber up. It's going to be in time to take on the Void Ray, as I don't think any Phoenix are coming out after this. So just the Queen should be able to take on this this Void Ray as long as they don't allow it to get charged up.
Yeah, there's going to be 2 queens with a 3rd queen now popping into play. Titan's going to be able to push back this Void Ray rather easily. The Void Ray did get 2 kills, 1 drone, 1 Overlord. As you can now see, the Void Ray doesn't want to engage just quite yet. Void Ray is very, very expensive units. Wants to allow those shields to naturally recharge before trying to push back in. Looks like the Void Ray going to be running into the main base. Their Spine Crawlers are also repositioning as well. And there is 1 Spore Crawler and a Queen in the main base to warmly receive this Void Ray.
Yeah, and Titan poking across here with these 3 links. He wants to see if there are any cannons down. He's going to try to see how many sentries and how much energy they have. And then this Void Ray is just patrolling here, hoping to do some sort of damage. Looks like the Queen's coming in here. All 3 going to try to take it on, do a little bit of hull damage. All the shields are gone from that Void Ray, able to do 19 total damage to it. But as you mentioned, that Void Ray is just going to be roaming at this point, hoping to get a little bit of damage. And this is what I was saying. I mean, a lot of Protoss players use the Stargate tech just to harass a little bit at the start, but don't go too overboard with it. And we see that Hwang Sin not even creating any Phoenix, and now quickly transitioning over to the robotics facility and the robotics bay as well.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Titan now going into the Hydralisk den, if he does produce or overproduce on a Hydralisk, those Colossi will simply walk over them. The extended thermal lance range plus the small radius of those Hydralisks make it so that that splash damage does add up rather quickly. Extended thermal lance range now being added in addition to the level 1 weapons upgrade, and we'll see whether or not we're going to see a 2-base timing attack coming in from the Protoss. You can see sentries down here at the natural expansion, all of them pretty much going to be full of energy, and I think we may see a push sometime around 2 to 3 Colossi.
Yeah, he's adding a 3rd, 4th, and 5th gate, so I was concerned he didn't have a lot of gateway units, but once the Colossi come out, once the extended thermal lance finishes as well, he is going to push out. He's going to reinforce with those 5 warp gates, and this is what I was talking about. Titan's going to have a difficult time getting on 3 bases here, just finally getting creep spread a little bit over to that 3rd, and this Void Ray going to do its best to try to deny this this hatch rate as long as possible, perhaps even force a cancel. And now we see the Queens going to try to focus down the Void Ray. They are not going to be able to get it. Again, the creep not spread very well here. The Hydra is coming down, hoping to get a shot or 2 on the Void Ray as well. And now 1 Queen will remain to babysit that that hatch ray as it does finish. Titan does have just 50 drones compared to the 56 probes of the Protoss players. So Titan a little bit behind at this point, and I think once the extended thermal lance and the Colossi finish, we might have a very scary timing for the Protoss player.
Yeah, it's going to be a very scary timing indeed, as the 3rd Colossi now being added. 5 Stalkers also warping in as well, so it looks like we're going into crazy macro production from the Protoss. Protoss now just getting a very large army and still producing more units behind it. We are getting the pneumatized Carapace. The Overlords really need to do their job, and it looks like it will begin to do some scouting finally. Titan moving in with this 1 Overlord. He needs to get as much information as possible. I believe he will see the robotics bay, and now he perhaps will try to respond. He doesn't have a Spire yet, so that is going to be the real issue, with no Corruptors in order to challenge those Colossi.
And I think the key to this battle is going to be seven sentries. They all have max energy, so they're going to be able to trap a lot of units here, as Titan's going to be fighting off creep, or at least trying to do so, as we see a number of Overlords going down. And now we have this small mini death ball without any sort of infestors to punish the grouped up Protoss player. And with all these force fields, I don't see this working out very well for Titan. As we see Lings coming from behind, as well as Roaches and Hydras hoping to focus down the Colossi. One of the Colossus does go down, the Void Ray being focused down as well. But at this point, those force fields just doing so much positional damage to Titan. He's lost a ton of Roaches, a ton of Hydras, and Wang Xin coming in with, again, a second Colossus, and also reinforcing from this pylon. Titan definitely going to lose this third, and possibly the game here if he's not able to defend the natural.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very difficult. Roaches are still being added. Ventral Sacks being added as well. Not quite sure what he plans to do with that, as the Roaches are now desperately trying to run away. We can see that this Observer is still here from the Protoss, and the Protoss army pretty much able to see, guess the wrong all-in. So Titan now in just very, very concerned. He knew that an all-in was going to be coming in. Perhaps he thought it was going to be a lot more gateway units, but instead in come the Colossi, or perhaps expecting Stargate units, and now the Roach is going to try to engage, but I'm not Cheese Boy. All right, so a little bit of playful talk between the two, but I think the outcome is pretty much going to be known. Even if these two Colossi or three Colossi do fall, the sheer numbers of losses of the drones may be too much.
Yeah, Titan's going to end up losing this game, and I'm not sure if that's a fair critique by him. I mean, we saw that Wang Xin had more probes than Titan even had drones. He's establishing a third. Obviously, he does that when he's attacking here, but I just call this a timing, not necessarily an all-in. If this attack fails, you know, you might be behind, but I think, yeah, I don't know. I think that's just a little bit of complaining coming from Titan and not necessarily warranted.
Yeah, I think it was. I don't think it was really an all-in. I think it was just a two-base timing push. I mean, as you mentioned, he had more probes. He would have been able to easily saturate that third if his Colossi ran into a lot of units, if they weren't able to get the true damage that they needed. And now it looks like Gosu is on the board, or itsGosu is on the board, taking a victory of the third game. But I believe we have an interview lined up, do we not?